Hello, everyone. My name is Christina. I'm the Family Programs Coordinator at the Vancouver Art Gallery. Hello, thank you so much for joining us. The Vancouver Art Gallery, where I work, it is situated on the unceded traditional territory of the Musqueam, the Squamish, and the Tsleil-Waututh nations. Now, the word unceded, it means that the rights to the lands and waters, they were taken without permission. They were never given an agreement. And to honor the ancestors and the caretakers of the land that we are on, I would like to do better to care for the land, to listen to Indigenous leaders, artists, speakers, in ways that we can better support our community and the land that we are on. Today, the land that I am on and presenting to you from is the unceded territory of the Comox Nation. And you know what? If you would like to learn a little bit more about the land that you are living on, I'm going to pop it right into the chat. This is a really cool app that's called Whose Land? And you can get an app on your phone, and wherever you are, you can learn a little bit more of the ancestral land that you are on. All right, so today we are very fortunate to be joined by Chrystal and Christopher Sparrow. How are you two doing?
Good, very good.
Good.
All right, well, we're so excited to have you here. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your energy today also. Before I hand it over to Chrystal and Christopher, I'm going to go over a few housekeeping things. So a few things to think about how we can all come together today in a safe and welcoming way. I also forgot to introduce Yvette, who's here with us, giving us support. And she'll be here to work with us, to ask questions and support your questions and ideas also. So today we're going to think about bodies of water that we're connected to. Like I said, we're going to hear from Christopher and Chrystal Sparrow about their practices and their connections to water and the land that they are on. And we're going to hear a little bit about the processes and materials that they use to express those connections. We want to hear your ideas too. So one great way that we can hear your ideas, we can hear your questions and suggestions is to use the chat function. So you can see this in this little slide here. There's a circle at the bottom, and that's the chat button. You can click on it and you can add your questions, ideas, and comments. You get to ask questions directly to Christopher and Chris, and Christopher and Chris and Chrystal. Sorry about that. But what you can do is you can click right on it. You can even click on it right now and say hi to everyone joining us today. So as I mentioned before, we want to think about making this a safe and welcoming space for everybody. We want it to be fun too. So there's a few things that we need to agree all together upon to make that happen. So by joining the session, we agree to take pride in speaking up and sharing. We agree to be curious, open, and respectful to celebrate each other's ideas. We agree to listen and learn from each other with care and kindness. And we agree to use our comments to uplift each other. And if captioning might be helpful to your experience with us today, what you can do is in the next slide, there's an image where you can see the button that says Live Transcript. So if you click on that, you can turn auto-generated transcription off and on. Keep in mind, it is auto-generated. It's not perfectly accurate, but we're hoping that this is an offering that might help engagement or offer alternate ways of engaging with us today. All right, thank you for listening, everybody. Now let's get to the fun stuff. Chris Sparrow is a Musqueam Coast Salish artist and young master carver. He was traditionally mentored in Coast Salish art and design by his late father, Irving Sparrow. Chris's designs in red cedar panels and sculptures are inspired from animals and sea creatures from the Salish Sea. We're going to see one today. He has sold private work to celebrities like Goldie Hawn, Whoopi Goldberg. Chrystal Sparrow is a Musqueam Coast Salish artist that comes from a long line of Coast Salish weavers, carvers, and fishermen that span generations. She describes her work as a unique living art language that voices her family's teaching and feminine Coast Salish art. Sparrow works in red and yellow cedar, traditional welcoming house posts, and a variety of multimedia artwork. She is well known for being a female Coast Salish carver, a practice that is still rare to this day. Her public art can be found in the Vancouver School Board, Starbucks, BC Children's Hospital, and the New Lytham Community Centre in UBC. So today we are going to celebrate a work that was created for, two works actually created for an exhibition at the Art Gallery called Yoko Ono's Water Event. So for this project, Yoko Ono requested local Indigenous makers to create vessels that hold water. And these works, like I said, are on view right now at the Vancouver Art Gallery. I'll pop a little bit more information about that in the chat. There we are. Now, before I hand it over to Christopher and Chrystal, I want to ask everyone in the audience, and you can put your answers in the chat. What body of water do you feel connected to, and why? So feel free to pop some answers in the chat. And again, feel free to, at any point today, put some questions or ideas or thoughts in the chat as well. And you actually get to hear directly from Chrystal and Chris Sparrow. All right, I'm going to hand it over to you two. And maybe what we'll do is we can chat a little bit about the incredible works that you created for the water event. We already have someone in the chat here saying the Pacific Ocean is something that you connect to. How fantastic here on the Pacific Northeast. Some people are saying Lake Simcoe. I know that's a lake in Ontario. The Bow River. So we all have our own unique connections to bodies of water. We can also think about why. Why are those connections so important? So maybe we'll start with Chrystal. Do you want to share a little bit about the work that you've created that's on exhibit at the gallery right now?
Sure. All right. So yeah, this piece represents Mother Earth, and I really wanted to focus on thinking of water and where it comes from. When we think of the Salish Sea, we think of our forests, and I really thought the root base for red cedar would be a really good place to start. So as you look at this piece, you'll see that Mother Earth, her hair is pretty much looks like roots. And it's interesting when you start with an idea. It was actually originally hair, but as I started to work, it became more of a root base. And I was just really interested to see what that would look like. And I also thought of salmon as they're really important to water in our Salish Sea. Also, salmon represent and symbolize fishing in my family, something that I'm really proud of, and really proud to be a fourth generation fisherwoman. And Christopher, my brother, he goes by Chris. I had asked him to work on this piece with me as he has more experience in sculpture, and so Chris and I worked on this piece together. I sketched out this idea, and he really was teaching me the basics or the foundation of using chainsaws to sculpture and to think of ideas that I had. So yeah, I was really happy to work on this piece with Chris, and for him to carve these really cute salmon to represent the Salish Sea of as a way of symbolizing water for this exhibition, as well as on the other side, which you can't see, I painted licorice. It's a licorice root, and it also comes from the forest, but it also was in recognition of our late father, as he always had these adventures to go and walk in Spirit Park. And one of my tasks was to go and pick this licorice root. And so I really thought of him while I was working on this piece as well. And just by the salmon, you can't see it, but it's painted. I thought of sea kelp. I thought of just how important they are for First Nations people, but they're just for me at this stage in my artworks. I'm really thinking of nature in regards to the water and sea kelp and the old traditions of using using them for holding water or for weaving fishing nets has really become important to me. So I'm thinking of these different plants and roots as, oh, just, I guess you would say becoming more a part of my work and my research, and to seeing what my people, the Coast Salish and those who live up and down the coast here, what they use them for, as we don't use them for those purposes anymore. I would love to weave a sting and nettle with cedar and kelp mixed together and weave this beautiful fishing net in memory of my people and what they once used. So this piece really brought up a lot of things, but more importantly, just thinking of Mother Earth in a way that is starting from the base with the roots, and also to be able to work with my brother, who I really admire, and to be learning new things and to really see Mother Earth come forward was exciting, and I look forward to making more pieces that represent her. Yeah, so that's it.
Thanks so much, Chrystal, for sharing so generously, and for sharing the personal elements too, the mentorship from your father. And this is a great example of why you need to go and see sculpture in the round and go and be in the space with this work, so you can walk all the way around it and see all of the different angles and aspects and be with it. And we all have the opportunity to do so at the gallery right now. Chris, do you mind if I ask if you share a little bit about the work that you've created?
Yes, I did a 3D humpback whale jumping over a wave. Over, if you, on the bottom of the humpback whale, there is another humpback whale looking up. When you walk around it, it really represents the ocean. Musqueam has, we used to have the biggest inlet of humpback whales here. They used to come into this inlet to hunt for octopus. Surprisingly, we have a lot of deep spaces, or deep spots in over by Horseshoe Bay that they used to hunt. The killer whales and humpback whales used to come into these inlets to hunt and to eat. And it really inspires me, because when I was crabbing and everything, I actually came across one. That's why I really inspired me to really look into doing humpback whales and killer whales and stuff from this area, and salmon. So I grew up on the water. I grew up in the river here in Vancouver, on the Fraser River. So yeah, this piece here really took my sculpturing to a whole new level. This piece is actually hollowed out. It has yellow cedar teeth, and it was an amazing piece to do. When you walk around it, it really has a lot of movement. That's my main thing, is the movement of the humpback whale. Yeah.
I have to ask, Chris, how many different pieces of wood have you used to carve here?
Okay, so we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different pieces. You can't tell. Like I actually cut this piece in half, but you can't tell. And I hollowed the whole thing out, and then I put yellow cedar teeth in them, and then I put them back together, and I added the fins on. And then I added the tail on, and I added the top fin, and then we put the post in to the water. The water is one solid piece. Yeah, there's 7 pieces there, but you can't really tell.
I can't believe that the water is one solid piece. This is astounding. And again, I really encourage everyone to go and see this in real life and walk all the way around and look at it from every angle. I have one other question about the material you've used to create the eye.
Okay, yeah, so the abalone is indigenous up from Haida Gwaii. So that's where the abalone pieces came from for this piece.
Thank you. How fantastic. So maybe what we'll do is we'll take a look at just a couple of other images of works that Chris and Crystal have created collaboratively. Um, I don't know if you wanted to share anything about this work here that you've created.
You want to take this one, Crystal, or?
Yeah, so this was a piece. I think this Salish Strength was the beginning of Christopher and I working together. It was our first piece together, right?
Yeah.
And we actually collaborated on the design. So I wanted to really work on the wing. I thought my style of wing would be important. And Chris, I believe you worked on the head and the eye, and I think I worked on the tail. And then also, didn't you thought of which piece represented Dad's style? I can't remember.
It was the wing. It was
The
half,
wing.
half of
What
the
about
wing.
the beak?
Yeah.
Was it the beak or?
No, yeah, it was the beak too.
Yeah, it was the beak. Yeah. So this was a piece that we thought of that we would each have a part, well, a different part, but we'd also include something from our dad because it was our first piece working together. So we had to collaborate and not argue about who was going to do what. And then the bottom was just a simple weaving design pattern. And then I just chose the colors based on themes like happiness. I think they had quite a few themes, right? There was happiness, integrity. I think there was love or something. I think there was quite a few words. So I just kind of chose colors and put them together quickly. Yeah, this was a really fun piece to work on together. And Chris, I remember you were pretty much finishing all the outlining. And so when we had it displayed at the Olympic Village, you were just doing some details, just kind of some like finished touches, but it was pretty much done carving. And then we just painted it there on site. And they were filming you doing the finishing touches of the carving because they wanted this live event for the Canada. I think it was Canada's birthday, 150 year celebration, and Starbucks, I think it was their 150 wishes, right? Was that part of their campaign?
Yeah, it was the 150 wishes, Starbucks, and I ended up recarving all the lines when I got there because they wanted it all on film.
To make it look like you were actually carving.
Yeah.
We were being creative. Because to carve that in one, like, what is it, 7 hours?
Yeah.
Or so, it's just not possible because you got to take breaks and stuff. So, but yeah, that was a fun piece. That was actually our first piece together. That was in 2017 that we worked on that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Thank
at
you
the.
both. Oh, go ahead, Chris.
Oh, it's at the Fraser, Broadway Fraser Community Center. That's where that one is.
Thank you. What I was going to say is I just wanted to jump in with a comment from the chat here. I don't know if you two can see the chat or not. Someone's noting that it's so heartwarming to see siblings working together. And I agree. And I think that's a wonderful thing for us to celebrate here at Family Programs, the legacy that you're carrying on from your father, but also the way that you work together. And as Crystal said, you have to not argue and work together. And I think that's a great thing for siblings to do together.
Well, you can argue, but you have to learn how to work together because and also about this piece, it was really significant. It was the very beginning for Chris and I working together. It was kind of like this intervention from our father. He had just passed away, and it was a really difficult time, but we were just getting through as best as we could. And it was so early on that he had passed that we were just kind of trying to figure out what that was going to be like. And I got an email, and then I made a phone call to a representative at Starbucks who wanted this art piece from just one artist. And I kid you not, I was on the phone asking some questions and I heard my dad's voice in my ear. And he just said, "What about your brother, Chris?" And I thought, oh my goodness, like I'm not crazy. Like I literally heard my dad's voice. And that was the very beginning. And I never thought twice about it. I thought that was really important. And the lady on the phone, she didn't have a lot of authority, so she said, I'll get back to you. And I just said, it wouldn't be something to have a brother and sister working together if we're both carvers and us creating something. Not sure what that's going to be, but just to celebrate the 150 birthday of Canada. And she just said, okay. And then of course, and then we actually got more money too. So it was a really good beginning for Chris and I, and our start in working together.
Wow. Well, all I can say to that is thank you. Thank you for sharing so generously and authentically. I have a few other questions in the chat. Now Tuko's asking, are all your family carvers? How did your paths to become carvers unfold? You touched on that a little bit just now, Chrystal.
Me and Chrystal are carvers, and my brothers are fishermen. Yeah.
Well, our dad started out as a fisherman because comes from a large family of fishermen, commercial fishermen. And dad always told the story that in the early 90s, his father, Lyle Sparrow, had a conversation with him about finding a different career because the fishing industry was going to start declining as it was taken over by a corporation. It was no longer a brotherhood working together that that our grandfather once had. The Patterson company was taken over and buying a bunch of leases and taking over the fishing market basically in the early 90s. So our father, Irvin, he decided to look into art, but he was actually, our Aunt June had said our father, Irvin, was an innate artist from a very early age. He was very artistic. He liked to use his hands in making sculptures when he was in preschool. That's where it all started, in him being interested in dinosaurs. So our father was innate, and when he picked up art, he went and learned from two old carvers, Tonto, and I can't remember the other guy's name, in Musqueam, and he had done it so that it was a traditional way. He went to their house and asked them if they would teach him how to carve, and he had brought them gifts and brought them money and brought them food, and that was their traditional way of learning how to learn something from a teacher in your community. And he had done that, and he said he swept out the shop and he brought them things and they taught him, but he went home and he would just practice and practice, and he said his work at the very beginning looked really ugly, and that he thought it was chicken scratch. But over time, because of his love for nature and the water, just like Christopher really gets inspired by animals and their movement, and animals being in nature, you get inspired. And so he just naturally picked up on his hummingbirds and fish, salmon and things like that. So it's really our father who brought the carving traditions back to our family. And so then he just taught Christopher and I growing up, and he also taught a class as well.
Thanks, Chrystal. I have another question, and it's great to see all the questions coming in the chat. Keep them coming. I have a question about the shapes that you're using in your designs, and you use them so thoughtfully in the design process, let alone carving them so impeccably beautifully. I'm wondering if you'd be interested in sharing a little bit about the design elements that you're using.
Okay. We use crescents, V's, and U's in our art. Let's see, as we come up, like you can see that there's U's, crescents, and V's, and a bigger U,
And also circles as well.
and circles. Yeah.
And also I think like ovals. There were some pieces, some old pieces that had an oval shape to it.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, we use them quite frequently in our art, and we place them out really nicely. So when you see big pieces and stuff like that in the depth, you really it really grabs your attention.
Do you want to show them your paddle again and kind of just walk them through, you know, like how you work? So you just had your paddle there. Like I know you have different like layering options there.
Okay,
And
well,
also with Salish art, like there's traditional and there's contemporary. Christopher's contemporary as well as myself, and we do add traditional elements to it, like the crescents and things. But we also, as artists, we also create our own designs. And as you see Christopher's work, it's his own unique style.
yeah.
Well, I think I know what I would love to see is a little bit more about your process and materials and the incredible works that you have behind you. So I'm going to turn off my camera now, and everyone participating at home, feel free to add questions into the chat for Chris as we get to learn a little bit more about your process. And I'll jump in with any questions that we see. Thanks so much.
Okay.
Awesome.
Okay, well, the process in this is you start off with a blank paddle, you can see, and then you take it down to a level, take it down to a certain level. When you get to that level of taking the paddle down, you will get to this level, which is a lot thinner, to see where I drew that line on there, to putting a design. And then I carve the design. When you carve your design on, you take down different levels. Actually, I need this. You'll take down different levels in the piece. As you're taking down, your piece will get a lot of shape and depth. As you're taking each piece out, you will eventually get down to a certain level where you plane everything normal, or to one level, as you can see here. So this is a salmon design I'm doing right now out of red cedar that came from Squamish. It's a paddle for a client of mine, a local client. And as the piece comes out, you'll take down to another level here. So you can see when you get to this level, you will eventually move on to the next one. The next one, that you clean them up. And after you clean them up, you will, after this stage, you will move your way on to painting, which will bring you to this stage. And then after your painting's all done, all this and adding fins on, that's what I do, is the next process. And then you'll come up with a full paddle.
Chris, we have a couple questions in the chat.
Yep.
Someone's asking, how old were you when you started carving?
I started carving when I was 9.
Wow.
And actually, I started when I was 8. I was watching for about a year, and then I started carving when I was 9. I did my first piece when I was 10. And I actually started off on a big table, yellow cedar table, that we did for a client out in Richmond. And we did a 6.5 foot table, 6x4 table, and then we did a little pole. But yeah, I started when I was 9, actual carving. And I did my actual first piece when I was 11 on my own. Yeah.
Wow. Unbelievable. That's just incredible. Someone else is asking if what do the colors symbolize? The colors that you use, if they do.
The colors I use are mainly like red, gray. I use a lot of abalone in my stuff. Also, I use interference paint. So it has more of a shimmer and a glow when you walk by. Yeah.
Thanks so much.
Yeah. Correct. But yeah, so that's the process to the piece, to doing paddle pieces. The other one, as you get into looking at more of sculpturing, we've got a small window here. Get that in there. This is a loon bowl that I've done. Doing a loon bowl out of yellow cedar is a lot trickier. The wood is a lot more dense and heavier than red cedar, and it tends to crack a lot easier as you're working on your piece. So more time drying to less time drying in red cedar. Any questions?
I was just going to note, Chris, that yellow cedars were difficult to find, and it does take a lot longer to dry, but that's why we work in red cedar.
So this is a red cedar Hawkman Mask. As you can see, I have a salmon on each side. He's a 2-foot mask, Hawkman, red cedar, abalone eyes. And this one I put in about 4 months to carve him. This one piece.
Wow. Someone was also asking in the chat if it was one piece, which is just, I'm speechless to think about that being one piece and the process, the time that it took. 4 months, you said. Wow.
Yeah.
Mary's asking, where does the wood come from?
A lot of the wood comes from the island, the interior, or mainly the island, all the way up to Port McNeill. I had a bunch of wood come from Squamish, and a lot of the yellow cedar I found was out in Mission. Was another area where I collected wood from.
Hey, Chris.
Yeah.
I was going to show some of Dad's pieces. I got some of his birds. I collected some of his birds, and this is his a piece here. This is yellow cedar, and this is a seabird that our father Irvin carved. And as you can see in the wings, he really likes to have movement, and he does layer as well to give some definition. As you see the head too, there is a layer there because he wants to show the wing and that it's got some muscle here. And then you got this back here. Our dad just had a really unique way of looking at birds and designing and adding different elements. I really love how he worked on the wings. The feathers. These are little feathers, and just his style of the tail. You know, it doesn't look exactly like it, but you get an idea of it flying, and that's how it's moving. So that's one of his pieces, and this is yellow cedar, and some really nice detail there as well. And then I have another piece here that is a kingfisher, and this is one of my favorite pieces. Really love his kingfishers, and I just love all the different feathers. And there's like 3 different, layers here. Actually, there's just only 1 layer, sorry, but just the different movement of them. And this is kind of his signature for his tail. It's just a really nice kind of a shape there. Yeah, and this is also red cedar, and he would stain his work as well with like a wood stain, like a chestnut or something that was a bit light. Anything darker, it just kind of takes away from all the fine detail carve work that he had done. So this is just an idea of what our father's work and his style, and as you know, he loved nature. This is what he would create and what he was inspired, which also it still inspires us when we see his work to get ideas. So I wanted to show some of his work. Really nice. And I'll just quickly show a piece that I wish I still had, but I don't. It's actually blown up a little bit larger, and this is a piece I worked on. It was on leather, and I had used permanent markers. So I don't know if you can really see that there. Yeah. And that's just a piece that's something that's not carving that I like to do. Christopher and I are both getting into prints. Christopher, you've got into jewelry. So we're also expanding our work and also supporting each other. But I think prints would be really neat to see. And graphic works and things like that. Mm-hmm.
So Chrystal, we have one question from the chat from Kim. Is there a way of repairing the cracks that may appear, or do you have to often restart? And her second question is, do you start with sketches, or do the images emerge from the wood?
It would be so easy if they emerged from the wood. No, you always have to have some ideas. So sketching is definitely one. I think with cracks, like Chris, I know that when you have cracks at times, if they're not too bad, you just work with them. But if like they're gonna break off at some point, like a really thin area, you would hopefully to glue it, or if it cracks off, you just have to alter it.
Well, there's 3 different methods you can do this. One, you soak it, it closes. It'll open again, you soak it, it'll close smaller. And then you bag it. After it's bagged for usually about a week, it intends to close up. And then if it's in an impossible crack where it's like an inch wide, you just cut a sliver out of another piece of wood and you just glue it. Stick it in there and glue it. Yeah. That's how you get rid of cracks.
Well, also too, you have to keep in mind wood does expand throughout the different elements in the weather. So there are going to be some cracks, or some cracks you could hide in glue. But cracks, I think in red cedar, when you're looking at art, I think it's beautiful because it's natural, it's part of the wood. So you're never not going to have cracks. And I think they're just beautiful marks that, or, things that happen to the wood. Yeah, so you're just never going to have a piece that does not have a crack.
Thanks for sharing that knowledge and insight that you've learned over years of experience and supporting each other. I love how you mentioned how you support each other. I have another question that is about your beautiful earrings, Chrystal. This is some of your jewelry work. That's a question.
I am a collector of earrings from different artists on Instagram. And I'm trying to remember. I think her last name is Dixon. And she makes really beautiful work. Yeah, so I support artists as well who are beading and making jewelry. And this is one of a kind, and I really love one of a kind. I'm actually learning how to bead, and actually I didn't get a chance to mention this where I put it. I've been working with salmon skin as well. And I also teach hide tanning. So I work with deer and elk. And salmon skin is something, again, going back to nature that I'm looking into. And I actually gave some to Chris. And I'm hoping, Chris, at some point, you and myself will take some of those salmon skins and add them to our work as a way of being inspired, but also bringing back. Salmon skin was actually used as like clothing at one point. It's like a garment. And there was an elder from the island who had come across some salmon skin. Let me just grab one for you. And
When she was talking about jewelry.
oh, there you go.
This is one of the pieces that my.
Oh, I see it there.
See if I can get it in there. Can I get it?
Yeah, it's a little bit, but you can see some of the detail.
This is a sun design.
With gold eyes, right?
Yeah, 14 karat gold eyes. Yeah.
Nice.
This is actually going to be an eye of one of the next masks.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a salmon. This is actually a spring skin. I actually caught this spring with my uncle. Very proud. Right from the water to the boat to my hands. And this is an actual skill that you can learn. A good friend of mine named Janie C, SEA, like the sea. She teaches online classes, but salmon skin is still, it was used as garments in China, Sweden, Russia, and also here in Canada. And there was an elder from the island, like I was mentioning, and Janie had went there to go teach a class, and she had brought some salmon skin to show, and he was holding it, and he started to remember and get really really emotional. And he started to remember that he's seen one of their people wearing a Chinook vest or like jacket. And so that just goes to show that salmon skin was used here as garments. And they'd also use it up north as well. I think the Inuit use it for their clothing, obviously. as well as seal skin. So this is like a new art form, I think, that's really starting to come back. And I hope that, you know, Chris and I could use this. I'm actually going to be using these for earrings. I'm going to make some earrings. There are a bunch of artists who are already making earrings using salmon skin with their beadwork, which is really beautiful. But I also want to make wallets and things too. So yeah. The
Chrystal,
joys of trying things, yeah.
There's a question about from Carrie here. That how do you treat the salmon skin?
Well, to treat it when it's done, you would just use like an oil base, like you use coconut oil, bear grease, just to keep it like, you know, like soft. But there's two methods. There's like an oil method, and there's a tanning method to making these salmon skins. And there are artists now like Janie C, who's using plant-based dyes to dye them different colors, like purples and yellows and indigo. Yeah, so there's a process, but just to keep it soft over time, you would just use coconut oil or even like olive oil or bear grease if you have it.
Thanks, Chrystal. Another question. What do you like about creating pieces with the salmon skin?
I just find it connects me to salmon in a new way, because Chris and I grew up fishing since we were kids. And so we've seen plenty of salmon and spring salmon and humpbacks. I mean, humpies, we call them. And so to actually use my hands to work with a skin is actually quite different, but it's also quite neat because it's making me think of, you know, salmon in like a new way of using them for garment making and for jewelry. But I do have quite a bit of them. I kind of hoard them, so I do need to give some more of them away. But this one I'm really proud of because I actually caught this with my uncle, and it's a spring salmon, and it's quite long, quite big, but and quite thicker than salmon, or sorry, sockeye. Yeah, so it's just really connecting me back, and I just have a lot more appreciation.
Thanks so much. I'm wondering if you have anything else you'd like to share about some of maybe the tools that you have that you work with in your studio, Chris?
Okay, yeah. So this is one of the knives I just got. This is one of my straight knives to more of a finer little blade for detail, to working with bent blades for takedown and digging, to a finer bent blade, which is a lot smaller, to a straight knife, more of doing fine line, long fine lining, and then chisels for the digging process of these and everything. I've been collecting knives quite a few years now. I go up and down. I give a lot of them away as gifts to a lot of the other carvers, stuff like that. So yeah, my carving knives are really sharp. They're very unforgiving. So you slip, you cut yourself. Yeah. So yeah, these are the knives I use. I have a whole bunch of other knives I'm going to be trying out. But yeah, so those are the kind of tools I use to do these pieces.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, where am I?
Well, Chris and I found one of Dad's knives that he used, which is this one here. I think you remember this.
Yeah,
It's got that lion head on it. This was one of our Dad's knives. As you can see, it's short here, but this was a longer at one point. So as you keep sharpening, it does shrink. So this is an example of a knife that was used for a long time and pretty much getting to the end here.
That's actually the knife I started with.
Wow.
Yeah, that's my first knife.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh,
because after he handed it down to me after, but that's the first I started
okay.
with.
This is when you were 9, Chris?
Yeah, when I was 9.
Wow.
That's the one.
Wow.
I haven't seen it in a while.
Yeah. Well, I have it.
Yeah,
I'll have to show you at some point.
yeah. It's been a long time.
You'll probably take it back.
I think we should get it framed. That knife was found here down at the gardens down here. That's where that knife came from.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so it has a story. Wow.
Yeah, it's a German steel knife. It keeps a really good edge. German steel.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's something that people don't know as well. And I'm still learning a lot about knives and sharpening and edges, because you have to be careful you don't buy tools that don't keep an edge and the steel is not worked properly, right?
Yeah.
There's some people who just sell tools and they don't know how to really work with what we call that, like heating them properly, Chris?
Yeah, that's tempering them. You got to be tempered.
Tempering them. Yeah. So even though they look good, there's some tools that are just not properly tempered and they wouldn't be that great. Yeah. So you have to find a really good tool maker.
I'm going to dive in here and say, we have an interesting question. How do you keep all of your fingers? I'm just going to also jump in and say, we're not going to try this at home. For any of us young participants watching, these are very skilled, incredible carvers. I do have another question in the chat about the abalone. And do you change the abalone in any way, or is it naturally so beautiful?
Well, we get it like in the shape and form that it is. I go through a lot of them, so I kind of look for a darker or lighter glow. So when you do walk up to the piece, it will shimmer at you, or it'll have a nice texture look. Yeah, so a lot of the pieces that we get are from they're already buffed out that way. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks so much. Someone else is asking, are your pieces available to purchase anywhere? It's a nice question.
Yes. Indigenous Native Art in North Van is one of the galleries that have a lot of my pieces. And I don't think I have anything in the Inuit gallery anymore. The Silver Gallery down in Gastown. Yeah.
They can also check out your social media handles, like on Instagram. What is it called? Is it your name or is it something else?
Salish Artist.
Salish Artist?
Salish Artist 1, yeah.
Salish Artist 1.
I will have stuff at the airport soon at the new Musqueam gallery that they're opening up in there. So there will be, it's strictly all Musqueam Native art. When you go there, I'm going to have a whole bunch of jewelry and a few sculptures in there.
Nice.
Pretty soon, yeah.
I don't have a lot of art for sale. I mainly just work on projects. But I'm thinking about getting into printmaking because I do make self-expressive prints of myself that have the kind of the old black and white Indigenous ceremonial clothing on my skin that I worked with the city of Vancouver. I found it kind of funny that people wanted to buy it because I was like, why do you want to look at me? Like, this is more for myself. But yeah, I definitely will have some pieces for sale, hopefully this year is my goal, to have prints and also to have some jewelry available, but I mainly work on public projects. And I also teach, not art, but I teach Indigenous expressive art therapy with students. So that probably takes up a lot of my time. And you could see me you can check me out on Instagram which is my name, Chrystal Sparrow. Yeah, so you can check me out there. I just show my work there and kind of projects that I'm working on. Christopher always has art kicking around, and I wish I did, but I don't.
Thanks so much. And everyone, of course, as you know, you can also come and visit the Vancouver Art Gallery to come and see and experience some of the works as well. We've posted those Instagram links into the chat as well, so people can reach you and see and celebrate your work also. What I'm going to do is, if anyone else has any other questions or thoughts or ideas, including you two, if you'd like to jump in with anything else, please feel free to. Somehow we've already been speaking for almost an hour. I told you it's gone by so fast because it's been such a joy and pleasure to experience the connection between the two of you.
I will just end and just add that Christopher and I will be starting. We'll be working together again on a house post that is 20. It's a 20-foot house post, red cedar. I'm just working out the logistics of getting the log delivered, hopefully the next week or two, from the island. And this piece is going to be really important. It is a piece that acknowledges our late father Irving. I took one of his designs. It's a blue heron, and I really love that piece. So I had taken that and just made kind of my own interpretation of what that would look like from my perspective. But it's going to be carved, and I'm really happy to have my brother Chris, and we're going to have a couple uncles also come and just do some sanding and carving, and it's really going to be in recognition of our father Irving Sparrow, and that's going up in the summer at the Lelam. It's called Lelam, and it's part of Musqueam's development in UBC. So there's I believe it's the Lelam Community Center where it's going to be closely installed. And that's a piece that we're going to be starting soon. And like I said, it's a really important piece. So it's going to be really neat to see it come to life this summer.
Thanks so much. I'm going to bring up one more question, unless I see anything else pop up in the next couple of minutes. And it's really about how you use your work to honor and celebrate the salmon. And I'm wondering if your work helps you connect to salmon. You've spoke about your family ancestry of fishing, and yeah, I'm wondering how the creation of these works and representation of salmon honors them and what that means to you.
Myself personally, I don't really have those connections other than that I have respect and I really admire animals that I carve. Like I love eagles. You'll see a lot of my work, there's a lot of eagles that I carve, as well as salmon here and there. But I think for me as an artist, it's more of an inspiration and a real acknowledgement to just the natural beauty that the animals have. I'm not able to contribute back to salmon in a real literal way. Just more for me, it's just acknowledging that I have the opportunity to use them in my work, and also that I celebrate them through some of my pieces, not all of them. Like for salmon, that I think of the fishing legacy in our family. So that might be inspired through some of the salmons that I've carved, but not all of them. Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't have that real way of, I guess, literally connecting with them.
Thanks for sharing, Chrystal. Sorry, go ahead.
Me, I grew up fishing as a young kid, really young. So I've been up and down the coast all the way from here to Prince Rupert. And so we used to go to Rupert, and we used to follow the fish back, as they say. So we'd follow them from Rupert all the way to the Fraser River. So, and that is a 3-month trip of following them and going from cove to cove to deliver. So as I was growing up, I dealt a lot with fish. I dealt a lot with the sea, and a lot of inlets I've been in and out of. So the salmon to me are strength, and they represent family, because they swim in schools, and they bring food to, they bring how you say it, they bring food to all nations all the way across the coast. They are they also go up streams, and they even feed all the plant life. So the salmon to me are strength. So that's why I always put them in a lot of my art. Like you'll see sockeye, springs, coho. I go through very different kind of things with salmon. So I grew up on the water, so that's basically why I put them in everything I do. Yeah.
I also have to bring up this one other question. First of all, thank you everybody for your wonderful questions and participation in the session today. Chris, someone's asking about the round piece behind you, if you had a few words to describe that.
Okay, so I did a piece for a lady. She's out in Ottawa. And it is a killer whale and salmon. And she bought another one too. It's just a killer whale, but I sent the wrong fins. I sent these fins there, and I have the small ones here. So she ended up buying this one too. So I'm sending this one over, and it's gonna have her fins are already there. So we got a killer whale and is it a spring salmon and a sockeye salmon, spindle whorl with a cedar rope. Yeah, the whole thing in there. So yeah, it's made out of red cedar. It's got an abalone eye. 2 feet round.
Wow. Well, I have to thank you both for being so generous in what you've shared with us today. It was beyond what we could have imagined this conversation to be, celebrating your connection together, your connection to family and father, and the incredible things that you've learned and now are passing on to other generations. Someone else did ask about how you work towards mentoring others, and maybe that's something you can think about, unless you have anything to say now about that as well. But it's just been so touching to just see this connection, and the work that's come as a result from those beautiful, rich connections. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, this has been great.
Well, I think what we'll do now is, again, I want to thank all of you at home for your enthusiasm, participation. I think you two have a lot more fans now. And there's just been so many, haven't even mentioned all of the comments that we've seen in the chat about how powerful and incredibly beautiful the works are themselves. So maybe I can even just send this chat to you so you can get a sense of that. Rather than me putting you on the spot right now. But so many thank yous for this generous sharing. And again, I can't emphasize enough to come and see these works in person. They will render you speechless. I have to say that was my experience of being with them in the space. So when you are comfortable to do so, the Vancouver Art Gallery is open. You can also book a timed ticket. I can pop a link here in the chat so you can do so. And fabulous, if you would like to join us again, if maybe you're not comfortable coming in person or it's not the right time for you, we'll still have programs online. Our next Art at Home is on January 27th with a fabulous artist named Stilo Star. I've just popped a link in the chat here for registration there. I want to thank the Vancouver Art Gallery. I want to thank Yvette. Of course, all of you at home, and of course, Canada Life, who make our programs here possible. Thank you to Canada Life. So with that, I think we'll just close with this gratitude and wishing you all wellness and that you'll all stay together, stay connected to each other and the world around you through art, and to your siblings also. Collaboration with siblings is a fantastic thing that we've seen today. So be well, everyone, and thank you again for your generosity.
Great, thank you.
Itka.